Alright, I'll pull it.
He says he can pull.
I can pull the trigger. I said I would pull it. You fucker!
Top 12 insanely awesome biopunk movies of all time. We've all watched films about oppressive governments trying to manipulate DNA, or huge multinational organizations dealing in synthetic body parts, or biohackers and terrorists trying to take over the world. Well, these are the kinds of subjects that gave rise to biopunk, a subgenre of science fiction and a derivative of cyberpunk. Biopunk majorly deals with the oppression or control of society or people by virtue of biological advancements. If you were under the belief that this was a recent concept, then we implore you to think again. It goes back as far as 1818 when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, or H.G. Wells' 1896 work The Island of Dr. Moreau. The subgenre majorly tries to explore the fallacies and negative implications of biotechnology on humans and their surroundings. Biotechnology is a vast arena of science dealing with everything from baking bread to splicing DNA. While we're on the subject, did you know that DNA and gene editing is no more a thing of the past? Among others, a technology called CRISPR-Cas9 has given scientists the ability to edit organisms' DNA. We've been growing genetically modified crops for decades now as well. However, unregulated and wrongful use of these technologies runs the risk of worsening social inequalities. In this video, we bring you the 12 movies that we think clearly live and breathe in an atmosphere of biopunk. Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin. The Fifth Element, 1997. Every 5,000 years, the planets and stars align in a specific arrangement. This is the moment when a great evil rises with the intent of conquering everything in its way. The only way to defeat this great evil is a set of 4 stone slabs representing the elements of earth, fire, water, and air. A fifth element exists in the form of a sarcophagus or an Egyptian coffin, and it combines the other 4 to give them life. In the year 1914, an alien race called the Mondoshawans had come to Earth and retrieved the slabs in the fifth element from an Egyptian temple. Almost 350 years later, it is now 2263 AD, and the dangers of the great evil looms large, when a mysterious woman named Lilu falls inside the flying cab of ex-Special Force soldier Corbin Dallas. He is reinstated on duty and tasked with finding the fifth element, which will decide the fate of the Earth. Packed with stars like Gary Oldman and Bruce Willis, this Luc Besson film is a wild and imaginative teenage fantasy film. Besson started writing the story when he was just 16, and he directed the film when he was 38. Naturally, the film predominantly remains a fantastic biopunk fantasy. In one of the sequences, a character is regenerated from just a hand. Furthermore, the essence of the film lies in the titular fifth element, which has the power and technology to give life to the 4 basic elements. What's even more striking is the physiology and the sentience of the antagonist. It's the prime example of nature's evolutionary process as well as the reflection of Besson's imagination.
Customized urine pouches for the frequent substance tests, fingertip blood sachets for security checks, and vials filled with other traces.
Gattaca, 1997. In a not-too-distant future, society is dominated by eugenics, which promotes birth by genetic selections and results in genetic discrimination. Those born with genetic selection are considered as valids and selected for white-collar jobs, while those born naturally are discarded as invalids and deemed fit only for menial tasks. Vincent was one such naturally born child who is now working as a cleaner in a spaceflight conglomerate called Gattaca Aerospace Corporation. After Vincent was given a life expectancy of only 30 years, his parents had their next child through genetic selection. However, Vincent is ambitious and wants to live his dream of going into space. So he assumes the identity of a valid named Jerome Moreau and enters a spaceflight program. Vincent collects Jerome's biological samples to pass through the daily tests, but when one of the program administrators gets murdered, his cover seems to be blown. Will he succeed in realizing his dream? In one of the sequences, a doctor says, "The child is still you, but the best of you."
This child is still you. Simply the best of you.
At that moment, Gattaca becomes a chilling tale of science fiction, a tale that screams about the nuances that our future holds. Gattaca was written, crafted, and filmed with a very pristine idea that an age will come when the world encounters a new form of discrimination based on genes. Society has seen such extreme forms of racism in pre-war Germany, but Gattaca's story makes biotechnological advancement the cause of such discrimination. Furthermore, this tense theme plays itself in the film's set, costumes, design, and direction. The future world is portrayed as a painfully well-organized place, mostly in shades of black and white. Writer and director Andrew Niccol selected a crisp cast in Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, who do justice to the serious social and cultural implications of biotechnological engineering and gene editing. District 9, 2009. In 1982, a giant alien spacecraft containing almost 1 million aliens landed in Johannesburg. It is found that the aliens have vague humanoid features and display strong prawn characteristics. The South African government welcomes them and places them in a makeshift refugee camp called District 9, but over the years, the warm-hearted welcome deteriorates to cold-blooded disgust. District 9 becomes a modern form of a concentration camp where the aliens are oppressed and subjected to torture and painful experiments. After receiving several hateful complaints from local humans, the government hires a weapons manufacturer called Multinational United to relocate the aliens. Wikus van der Merwe, a crude and brute man, is put in charge of the responsibility. However, in the process, Wikus comes in contact with an alien substance and he starts transforming into a prawn.
What is happening to my arm? Just breathe deep. What is happening to my arm, doctor?
After he learned that he will be the subject of torturous experiments and that only prawns can help him, he switches sides. But will he even survive? Director Neil Blomkamp takes speciesism to a whole new level, with humans tormenting a group of aliens who only came to Earth to seek refuge, not world domination. He molds social and political commentary with biopunk elements. A major inspiration remained the District 6 incident of South Africa, when over 60,000 residents of Cape Town were asked to leave and settle 25 kilometers away from the city. District 9 gracefully blends xenophobia with racism, and by the time the film ends, the viewer is thrown into provocative thoughts about the fate of the Earth and Wikus. Ultimately, Wikus becomes more humane and kind the more he morphs into an alien. District 9 is equal parts thrilling and compelling.
See? You're humming along already. Okay. Existence,
1999. In the near future, the gaming world has seen a radical improvement in technology and the way it's accessed. Instead of electronic consoles, they now come in the form of gaming pods which have wires called umbicords that attach to bioports. These bioports are connectors that are surgically implanted into a human spine, and once the game starts, they are shifted into a world of virtual reality that's hardly distinguishable from the real world. Antenna Research and Cortical Systematics are two gaming firms fighting for supremacy, while a group called Realists fight these two multinational firms to prevent them from changing the dynamics of reality. When Allegra Geller is giving a presentation of her new game Existence, she is attacked only to be saved by Ted Pickle. Fearing that her pod that contains the only copy of the game might be damaged, she convinces Pickle to install a bioport to enter the game. Allegra and Pickle will now go through peculiar experiences and strange adventures filled with deception and violence, all while struggling to differentiate between what's real and what's not. One might think that because it's a film about virtual reality, there will be many cyberpunk elements and high-tech computer wizards. However, Existence was produced and directed by the legendary David Cronenberg, and without disappointing his fans, he made it a gooey and grotesque biopunk film. The theme of this movie gets rightly mirrored in the gristle gun that everyone uses. Instead of bullets, it shoots human teeth. Or if we consider the umbicord, which is a homonym for umbilical cords. Just like the cord connects a fetus to its mother, the umbicord connects the player to virtual reality. Simultaneously, a theme that flesh is the ultimate reality constantly looms. resumes. The chemistry between Jennifer Jason Leigh as Allegra and Jude Law as Pickle is impeccable, and only helps Cronenberg to elevate the film's style and substance. The X-Files, 1998. In 35,000 BC, two cavemen discover an alien life form. It kills one of them and infects the other with a black substance. 37,000 years later, the evil extraterrestrial with a power to wipe out civilization has resurfaced at the same site, which is now in Texas. FBI agents Fox Mulder and Dana Scully are investigating a terrorist attack that exploded a building and killed an FBI agent, among others. But they learn that it was a fake attack and the people who died in the explosion were already dead. The closer they get to solving the mystery, the more they're pushed back. Mulder and Scully begin to feel that it's all part of an elaborate government conspiracy to hide the existence of an alien life form on Earth. The film is based on Chris Carter's television series of the same name and is set between seasons 5 and 6. Irrespective of us being sci-fi fans or not, we've always asked ourselves at least once about the existence of aliens in our unimaginably vast universe with gazillions of planets and moons. If they do exist at all and have made contact with Earth, are the governments hiding it from the people? This was one of the central questions in the TV show, and the film has seemed to answer it well. It packs a whole lot of lore, mythology, and backstory for fans of the serial, but at the same time works fairly well as an independent film. David Duchovny as Special Agent Fox Mulder and Gillian Anderson as Special Agent Dana Scully bring in the tension that a movie about an alien threat demands. What's more striking is the feeling of paranoia that blankets the story and the characters. It creates an atmosphere of suspicion towards the government and its organizations. The helplessness of Scully and Mulder becomes sympathetic when we put ourselves in their shoes and try to figure out what to do when an extraterrestrial organism is infecting people. Scanners, 1981. A seemingly homeless man named Vale salvages food and cigarettes left behind at tables in a mall. As he begins eating, two women look at him with disgust and express it loudly.
I've never seen anything so disgusting in all my life.
Vale stares at them and one of the women falls on the ground with a seizure. Immediately, two men appear in coats and shoot him with a tranquilizing dart. It is revealed that Vale is one of the many scanners that roam the Earth. Scanners are humans with telepathic and telekinetic powers due to their advanced brains. The film revolves around a scanner named Daryl Revoke, who wants world domination by using his kind, while an organization called Consec struggles to suppress this underground revolt by using Vale's powers. However, Consec's intentions are not as kind as they seem. When director David Cronenberg released this one in the early 80s, it received largely cold reviews from critics, but over a period of time, it has become famous as a cult classic. Back then, it was a fresh story, while some said it was ahead of its time. We think Scanners was a game changer in the way biopunks were made. The scene where Revoke telepathically explodes another person's head will forever be the highest point in the film, and it remains a classic example of body horror that Cronenberg has employed in all his work. However, the body horror and organic decay of humans are not the only thing to look out for. It is a deeply satirical story with layers of metaphors in the dialogues and imagery. Some argue that the titular scanners are actually an allegory for the young and radical minds of Cronenberg's time. These youngsters represented and promoted a culture that was against contemporary mainstream values and ethics. You should watch the film and let us know if this assessment was correctly made.
Grab it! Grab it! Check your pulse rate, I'm going too fast!
Innerspace, 1987. Lieutenant Tuck Pendleton used to be a pilot for the Navy, but the character didn't quite suit him well. He resigned from this commission to become the subject of a miniaturization, where he is shrunk to a microscopic size and then transferred into a syringe. The next step of the process is to inject Tuck into a rabbit. However, a group of armed men led by Dr. Margaret Kanker of the rival organization attack the scientists. Evading the attack, experiment supervisor Ozzie Wexler takes the syringe and injects Tuck into an unsuspecting man named Jack Putter. Jack is a hypochondriac. He's always worried that he's sick or that something will happen and that he'll get sick. With Tuck thinking that he's been injected into a rabbit and Jack unaware of a human presence in his body, the results will laugh and thrill you at the same time.
He knows my name.
Jack,
Jack, we have to talk.
Innerspace is all about a crazed experiment going crazier. It begins with Tuck, who's played by Dennis Quaid, being reduced to a size that's hardly visible to the naked eye, and then he is injected into another human, Jack, played by Martin Short. He drives his submersible pod all around Jack's body. In one of the sequences, Tuck changes Jack's face by twitching the facial muscles.
What?
What did you do to him?
Who?
Jack!
Jack?
Jack!
I'm Jack.
There's a lot of traveling that Tuck does from one body to another, sometimes by transfer of saliva and at other times by way of sneezing. The plot comes to the viewers in layers and keeps on building as more and more things happen. Innerspace won the 1988 Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but wasn't a real hit in theaters, primarily because neither the title nor the poster could clearly define that it was a sci-fi comedy. Having said that, a major part of the film's quality comes from the reckless Quaid and the cynical Short. Blade Runner, 1982. From the frame of reference of the film, it is set in a futuristic 2019 where humans have created bioengineered humanoids called replicants. The replicants act and look like humans and have a range of basic emotion. The only way to distinguish between them and humans is through psychological tests. When a group of combat replicants rebel against their creators, a police force called Blade Runners are tasked with hunting them down if they're found on Earth. When 4 of them are found, former Blade Runner Rick Deckard is reinstated into duty. Deckard's objectives are simple. He's to find and eliminate the rebellious group of synthetic humans. However, Deckard develops romantic feelings for another replicant named Rachel, who's been implanted with false memories and doesn't know that she isn't human. This film by Ridley Scott is loosely based on Philip K. Dick's 1968 novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? When the film was released, it was faced with mixed responses from critics and the audience due to the slow pace and its complex plot. However, it stood the test of time and went on to become one of the greatest sci-fi films. Some of you great movie buffs watching this video might argue that it is more cyberpunk than biopunk, but we think that a film that makes biotechnological advancements its oxygen and blood fits perfectly on this list. Scott's vision of Dick's story made the film transcendental, and his efficient use of special effects created a world that lovers of all genres will acknowledge and appreciate. Blade Runner has been released in various versions with varying plot details. However, ours remains the final cut released in 2007, and it is the only version ever where Scott had complete artistic control.
18 hosts, 32 falls, 32 and a half. Half? Midget.
Little people, please. I have a cousin.
Repo Men, 2010. In the near future, a company has excelled in manufacturing perfect artificial organs or antiforgs. These are lent to people in need at inflated prices, but when people fail to pay the debts, the company sends skilled people called the Repo Men to retrieve the artiforgs. 2 of the best Repo Men are Remy and his partner Jake Freevold. Despite having a steady income, Remy's wife dislikes the job because she thinks that it negatively influences their young son. Remy and Jake finish a hit that brings them a better position in the firm, but Remy declines it to save his marriage. Soon, Remy gets involved in a freak accident with a defibrillator and is lent a heart from his firm and becomes its client from its Repo Man.
On this baby.
Don't you sell me, I'm not a fucking client.
Of course you're not. You're the best repo in this whole damn town, but you gotta have a ticker to play the game, am I wrong?
If he repeatedly fails in making both ends meet and pay the due amount, he will be chased by his own colleagues and a former partner. You know when civil rights activists protest to get universal healthcare? They must be strongly motivated by the sequences and consequences shown in Repo Men. Imagine a world where debt collectors take organs away and the poor debtors invariably die. The film has 2 brilliant actors in Jude Law as Remy and Forrest Whitaker as Jake Freevold, but somehow their powerful performances take a back seat when the voluminous amount of gore surfaces on the screen. There's a lot of blood, slashing, smashing, jaw-cracking, and knee-jerking action. These grotesque parts would have done well in supplementing the strong storyline, but they were not used in such ways. Having said that, it works fine as demented satire on the crude private insurance companies that seek to suck the blood out of people. Watch this one for the fun and gore it brings, and you won't be left disappointed. Body Melt, 1993. The residents of Pebbles Court in Melbourne regularly receive pills in their mailboxes that promise ultimate health but comes with a disclaimer that the pills might cause certain side effects like hallucinations. The unsuspecting innocent residents don't hesitate from consuming these dietary pills despite being warned by a former test subject. He dies a gross death, but everyone happily ignores that. They are actually unknowing test subjects of a mass experiment that mutates people and gives them disturbing and hellish deaths. The cover art of Body Melt says it's a slime-soaked all-out shocker, and that couldn't be a more appropriate descriptor. The residents experience rapid cellular decomposition that liquefies their flesh and tissues. In some cases, tentacles grow out of throats and faces. Pregnant women give birth to humongous and gross babies while the placentas have a mind of their own. However, the film is surprisingly funny and probably makes the cuts on many guilty pleasures lists. Nevertheless, if you come across free medication that promises wonderful things, then remember Body Melt and move on with a poker face.
Oh, look at this. What's this? I don't know.
The Fly, 1986. Seth Brundle is an eccentric scientist who has developed a device that teleports objects. He meets a young and beautiful journalist named Ronnie Quaife. Seth introduces her to his great invention and they soon start a relationship. After successfully transporting a live baboon, Seth enters the machine itself, only for a fly to enter with him. The machine somehow changes his genetic makeup by splicing it with that of the fly's. Initially, he shows heightened strength, stamina, and sexual performance, but soon his transformation into a fly begins. The film is loosely based on a short story of the same name, written by George Lang Long in 1957 and a film adaptation of it in 1958. However, director David Cronenberg showed his remarkable genius of body horror as he upgraded, improved, and improvised his version to limits unknown. Cronenberg deals with the primary theme of transformation with immense personalization, and he lets his viewers understand and observe the same. Jeff Goldblum's character of Seth Brundle doesn't just transform physiologically from a man to a humanoid insect, but also develops into one on a psychological level. During various sequences, Seth realizes that he is losing his sanity and free will only to become more primitive, while his actions are based on the natural instincts of an insect. This dual transformation of body and mind affects the viewers on a deeper level, and one begins to wonder if Seth's soul is human or if even that has taken a plunge towards the grotesque and gruesome. The Fly is a strong recommendation for all gorehounds and sci-fi buffs, but we should warn you that it's definitely not for the squeamish. Code 46, 2003. In a futuristic and dystopian world, populations are divided into the affluent living in the cities and the poor who live on the outskirts. The world has developed a common language and a document called POPL containing information and genetic details about the owner. The outsiders cannot enter the city without documents, and even if they do, their movement is heavily restricted by an authoritarian government. The people are bound and ruled by various codes, and the titular Code 46 is against genetically incestuous reproduction, which may be the result of biotechnological advancements like cloning. However, where there is a document, there is document fraud. William Geld is an investigator who is sent to Shanghai to look into a forgery. He meets a woman named Maria, and the two start a short-lived but raunchy relationship. In spite of knowing that she is behind the forgeries, he names a coworker as the culprit and comes back. However, he is sent back when someone dies and he learns that she has violated Code 46. It's that rare species of films that is decent in parts but compelling as a whole. It not only blends several genres, but has a vision for a futuristic society that is multi-ethnic, transcending the boundaries of race, religion, and language. It doesn't restrict itself to a particular city or country, and has characters from various nationalities. For instance, a character named Bachland is played by a veteran Indian actor named Om Puri. This sort of setting makes Code 46 a believable effort at cinematizing a society where the misuse and exploitation of biotechnologies are prevalent.
I know. You've been relocated.
Sorry?
You have been relocated. You will work here now.
Ultimately, Code 46 tries to address two major subjects. First, the vices of a society where births are controlled and regulated by the governments, and second, the stigma related to relationships between an older woman and a younger man and vice versa. To say the least, it has been beautifully crafted but remains far from perfect.
If you guys enjoyed this video, give us a like, subscribe, and press that bell icon that will help you get notifications. We upload an awesome video every day. Have an amazing day ahead and stay safe.
I'm gonna teach you that. Don't tell you when. Oh, holy shit!